Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're just going to give our speaker a few more minutes to hop in here and then we'll get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Hannah. I'm going to be our moderator for today's session. We also have Wendy online if we have any other moderating help. Thank you for joining our room. We're still waiting for our speaker to join, but I thought I'd go over all of our housekeeping items while we're waiting. So our session today, it's a great session. I'm very excited for it. It's called Positioning Your Neighborhood for Success in Middle Neighborhoods. And our speaker is going to be Lori Schwartz. She'll get in here in just a few moments. First, please ensure your cameras are off and your microphones are muted. This session is recorded, so it is important that your microphones do stay muted throughout the session. Second, please hold all of your questions for the question and answer session at the end. We're going to have 10 minutes at the end for questions for our speaker, so please put all of your questions into the chat box throughout the presentation, and I'll pose as many to the speaker as we have time for. If we run out of time, your question is not answered, please reach out to your speaker directly, and I will put her contact information into the chat box for you. If you'd like to ask the question yourself, feel free. Please just use the raise hand feature during the question and answer session and wait for me to call on you, and then please turn your video on and unmute your microphone to ask your question. Please also try to limit all chat activity to speaker-specific questions. The chat is going to be saved as a transcript at the end of the session and will be saved, so just be mindful of that. And then lastly, I'm sure you all know, please just try not to be disruptive with the speaker. If there is any inappropriate behavior, you will unfortunately be removed from the summit and you will not be able to re-enter. I'm just going to check and see if Lori is here. We'll give her a few more minutes. Hold on.
Tara, I was kicked out again.
Yeah, I was kicked out again.
Sorry about that, everyone. I think we accidentally got kicked out of the breakout room. Hope everyone's enjoying the summit so far. We're having a few technical difficulties with the speaker. She's working on getting back into the Zoom, so just give us a few more minutes. Sorry about that, everybody. We do have one question in the chat. I just wanted to broadcast to everybody. The question is that you don't have to stay for all the sessions. No, you can log in or log out as much as you'd like, stay for whatever sessions you're most interested in. We'd love for you to stay for the whole thing, but it's totally up to you based on your schedule. I think we have Lori in here now. Welcome, Lori. So Lori, we have already gone over all of our housekeeping items, so we can just pass it along to you for your introductions and your presentation.
Hello?
Hi, Lori. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So Hannah, you're saying yes, you can hear me because I can't hear y'all.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to have to kind of do this on the fly. I'm sorry, I've had some major technical issues here. So hopefully I will be able just to go ahead and share my screen with you and we can go ahead and get started. But good morning, everybody. I am Lori Schwarz. I am the Director of Neighborhood Services. So let me go ahead and share my screen just so that we can do this. I apologize again for that. I'm not entirely sure what happened this morning, but all of a sudden I lost everything. But just wanted to say, hope everybody is enjoying the summit this morning and that you're able to learn some today. But I wanted to thank you for joining me today as we talk about positioning your neighborhood for success. We're going to go over the concept of middle neighborhoods today, as well as how the City of Plano has created programs to support our neighborhoods across the city. So go ahead and advance. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So first, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of the City of Plano. As most of you are in this area, you know that Plano is a first-ring suburb of Dallas, and this graphic just shows some jurisdictions within the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And Plano is the 4th largest city in DFW and the 9th largest city in Texas. Some basic demographic information is included on this slide, but I just wanted to point out our low vacancy rate and high median income, as well as our high percentage of minority populations. And many of our middle neighborhoods have largely Hispanic and Asian residents, which is typical of communities in the southwestern part of our country. The majority of our housing units were built from 1960 to the early 2000s, and we were a fast growth city. The yellow and the orange on this map show the homes built in the 1960s and 70s and are mostly located in our middle neighborhoods. The housing units through the 1980s remained primarily moderately sized, one-story, southwestern influenced ranch homes and neo-Tudor. The middle neighborhoods are fully of these homes with relatively dense lots and mature trees, and newer housing is primarily two-story brick homes with less architectural style influences. So I will start with this graphic of neighborhood cycle. When new homes are developed, you typically see a period of appreciation, which varies depending on the housing type and the market that it's located within. However, most neighborhoods do hit a period of decline. And our goal is to reduce or eliminate that period of decline to move quickly into reinvestment. We do this in a variety of ways, but primarily resident leadership, community partnerships, and large-scale reinvestment into neighborhoods are a large part of our tools that we use to support neighborhoods. So I wanted to just give a brief timeline of the City of Plano's work in middle neighborhoods. Love Where You Live has been in existence for over 10 years and represents a conscious choice to move from neighborhood plan-based work into more active revitalization efforts. The program represents our earliest efforts to stabilize middle neighborhoods. 2013 and 2014 were key years in establishing foundation for our work in middle neighborhoods. We completed a housing value retention analysis and creation of 2 key investment partnership programs. The Grade Update Rebate and Neighborhood Vitality and Beautification grants were created and funded during this time. The funding for these programs has been $500,000 for the home improvement rebate and $300,000 for neighborhood grants. In 2015, the city manager decided to create the Neighborhood Services Department through the combining of the Property Standards Department and 2 divisions of the Planning Department, Community Services and Neighborhood Planning. And I'll talk a little bit more about how our department works following just a brief overview of middle neighborhoods. So Middle Neighborhoods is a national initiative that focuses on bringing attention to neighborhoods that typically have housing available to households at 80 to 120% of area median income. We are supported by a variety of national partners, and I have served as the chair of the steering committee for the last few years. We have created a community of practice, which is a great resource for neighborhood leaders, as well as professionals in city government and nonprofits, to gain knowledge to better support neighborhood engagement and revitalization efforts. We have free webinars and online documents to help in neighborhood-based work. I would encourage you all to visit the webpage at middleneighborhoods.org. I wanted to also just provide a few characteristics of middle neighborhoods. You will see that they mostly have single-family homes, at least 50% owner-occupied, but slowly starting to see a few more rental properties, and they typically have an aging housing stock. The housing may not have been updated or meet the market demands for amenities. Although DFW is a bit of an anomaly due to our market conditions, many middle neighborhoods are seeing property values remain flat or in slow decline. Additionally, many middle neighborhoods are also more racially and ethnically diverse. This is a map of Plano's middle neighborhoods in the purple, blue, and red, and this is looking at change over a 10-year period. The green dots represent our housing reinvestment program, the Grade Update Rebate, which you can see is primarily supporting our middle neighborhoods. So to return back to the city's actions to support middle neighborhoods, as we came together as a new neighborhood services department, we began working together cooperatively to develop our strategic plan and pillars of action. Our pillars of action: help, outreach, partner, and enforce smells hope. And you'll see throughout this that I love acronyms, so you'll get to see another one of those soon. But our staff created why. Why our work is so important to the community is that we create hope and we propel positive change so that people are proud to call Plano home. So all of our programs and initiatives are based in these 4 pillars of action, which are use of volunteers, educational outreach, partnerships through grants and resources, and enforcement of city codes and ordinances. These pillars all support Best Neighborhoods, my other acronym, to create neighborhoods that are beautiful, engaged, safe, and thriving. As we consider support for neighborhoods, we separate our resources into tiers based on where the neighborhood is for engagement and revitalization efforts. Middle neighborhoods typically fall into Tier 1 and Tier 2 programming, and I'll quickly touch base on just a few of these as we go through the presentation. As mentioned, the whole goal of our neighborhood-based work is to reduce or eliminate the decline section of the neighborhood cycle as shown in the triangle. First, help, which is focused on using our amazing community volunteers to support neighborhoods. You as resident leaders are really neighborhood ambassadors, not only in support of the city's programs, but also supporting your peer neighborhoods. We have seen neighborhoods help mentor new up-and-coming community groups to build capacity and share best practices. We also have community volunteers that are helping with home repairs as neighborhood builders, and these volunteers work in our two revitalization programs, including Plano Cares. So Plano Cares is code abatement by residents engaged in service, which grew out of our Love Where You Live program. Both programs utilize volunteers to assist households that can't physically or financially handle home repairs or maintenance concerns. I had mentioned neighborhood ambassadors as part of building our connections with neighborhood leaders, and we start first with neighborhood group registration. This allows better connections citywide for neighborhood leaders, and it really serves as the entry level for neighborhoods to be able to access many of our neighborhood programs. So this is a map of our current registered neighborhood groups. The gap at the northwest corner of the city is our large retail and corporate campus area known as Legacy, which was initially developed with Ross Perot. We also want to recognize our neighborhood volunteers and leaders, which we do through an appreciation dinner and awards. This was our last in-person awards dinner that we had back in 2019. And then just to give you a little bit more about how can you take these initiatives back to your own neighborhoods and communities, these are just a few suggestions. We have this magnet for our refrigerator. We encourage you to start with your adjacent neighbors. Do you know everyone around you? Do you have block captains or a crime watch group? Or maybe you already have a neighborhood board and social group. Have you connected with your city if you do? Nextdoor is also a great way to meet neighbors and encourage a group activity such as a neighborhood cleanup, or even find out if someone needs help within your community. The next pillar of action is outreach, which is primarily focused on educational opportunities for our residents. I'll also touch base on a few of these programs that can really support your neighborhood-based work. The city invests significant time and resources into resident leadership development, which we consider one of our strongest neighborhood revitalization strategies. The summit you're involved in today is one example of how we're working to equip our resident leaders with the information needed to build great neighborhoods. We also have peer-to-peer learning opportunities through our Neighbors Connect series. The Neighbors Connect program provides roundtables and workshops on a variety of topics to support our neighborhood leaders. During the pandemic, we added Best Breaks as a way to continue connecting virtually and actually expanded our reach to unique neighborhoods and residents. We also created the Neighborhood Leadership Academy, and that's to help voluntary groups better organize and build engagement. Up to 5 neighborhoods participate in monthly meetings over the course of a year to discuss topics such as assessing strengths and gaps, creating mission and vision statements, and diversity inclusion. We have just started our 3rd year of the Neighborhood Leadership Academy and have graduated 7 neighborhoods and 25 resident leaders. So thinking about how you can position your neighborhood and its leaders for success, these are some suggestions for outreach, including attending today's regional training, such as today's summit. We also encourage you to connect with adjacent peer-to-peer learning. We have seen great success with more organized groups mentoring newly formed neighborhood groups. There's also tons of online resources, including the previously mentioned Middle Neighborhoods Community of Practice webinars, city websites, and the National Neighborhoods USA. We also encourage you to contact your city if they don't have some of these programs or resources provided, to ask that they increase neighborhood-based support. Next, we partner with residents and neighborhoods to take action and to achieve greater impact. These are just a few of the programs that we have to partner with our residents. I mentioned a few of these programs earlier, but I wanted to share just a little bit more about these partnership programs. One very successful program, the Pop-Up Party Trailer, was also one of our earliest programs for neighborhood engagement and revitalization. We have improved it over the last 6 years by adding more games and party resources, but this was a very low-cost investment that has been a huge return for the neighborhoods. Through the pandemic, we also added the pop-up theater for neighborhood movie or game nights that can be reserved with a trailer or separately. I had also mentioned neighborhood vitality and beautification grants. There are both small and large beautification grants, as well as mini grants for engagement to help build neighborhood groups. These allow sweat equity or volunteer hours that can be a great way to bring together your neighbors to not only get to know one another, but also beautify their community. This map shows the use of the grants for the last 3 years within the city. So some ideas to get to know your neighbors and partner for the betterment of your community is just to start getting together. Block parties, potlucks, progressive dinners, anything around food now that people are more comfortable gathering. Wine walks have also been very popular in my neighborhood, and we also saw a lot of people gathering in front yards during the pandemic. Other suggestions are renting out your neighborhood park or connecting with neighborhood restaurants for gatherings. We also suggest applying for any available city grants and continuing to advocate for more neighborhood reinvestment programs. I also wanted to discuss enforcement of City Council adopted codes and ordinances. Many people feel very strongly about maintaining their properties, both housing and landscape, and this can be a great way to come together to take care of your neighborhoods. We have the Good Neighbor Volunteer Program, and we are continuing to build this out. But the idea is that when we take care of each other, we are taking care of our community. We believe that most people want to do the right thing, but they may not know the right thing to do, or they don't have the physical or financial ability to address their property maintenance issues. This map shows you the complaints that our department has received over the last year. As you can see, it's widely dispersed across the city and comes into the city through a variety of different ways. This is a map to show the proactive inspections that were completed by our team members over the last year. It is also widely dispersed across the city. We are very fortunate that the City of Plano residents respond and address code violations 96% of the time. The remaining 4% may go through an assistance program, an abatement program, or the municipal court process. One of the assistance programs that we developed during the pandemic is the tool lending program. We were not able to have our Plano Cares program active, so we repurposed the tool trailer to provide these items to our residents at no cost. We provide this tool lending program on the 3 weeks that the Cares trailer is not being used each month. While this is provided by the city, a neighborhood could easily create a tool lending group to help residents better take care of their homes. So we wanted to give you some ideas to think about how you could better take care of code violations within your own community. One thing is to get to know your neighborhood police officer and code enforcement officer. They are great resources for assistance, and most are willing to come speak at a block party or neighborhood meeting to educate your neighborhood on city codes. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to build on the connecting with neighbors that I had mentioned and check on them. If you see code violations or packages on the front porch or something unusual, check on your neighbors personally instead of calling in a complaint. In so many instances, the outside concerns may be due to some life crisis or event that is keeping them from addressing those issues. This could also provide a great opportunity for your neighbors to volunteer to support a local resident in need. So this program has been building out since 2015 in the City of Plano. So I show you this to indicate that it does take some time to create programs that best support neighborhoods. We are always willing to try new things, and I encourage you to borrow ideas if you are just starting your middle neighborhoods-based work. One of our new programs is I Love Where I Live, so keep your eyes open for this new initiative that we can hopefully share at the next summit. And finally, this map gives you an overview of the impact of all of the neighborhood services programs across the residential areas in the City of Plano. As you can see, we have tried very hard to make sure that we are creating programs that are able to best support the neighborhoods within the city, and hopefully you will also see those kinds of things in your own cities across the Metroplex. So this concludes my presentation, but I did want to provide my contact information for anyone that wants to learn more about Plano's programs. You can learn more about our programming at the Neighborhood Services website, which is planoneighborhoods.org. And you may also feel free to email me with any specific questions. So thank you for your time today, and I will be turning this back over to Hannah, and hopefully we will figure out a way for me to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So thanks all for listening this morning.
Thank you so much, Lori, and thank you everybody for coming today. This was a very informative presentation. We do have some time for Q&A, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or use the raise hand feature, and we can, hopefully Lori will be able to hear us so she can answer those questions. I'm not sure if everyone saw in the chat, but Lori can see the chat box. So if you type your questions, she can read them there and then she'll be able to answer them.
Okay, so the question is there any one program, in my opinion, that has been more successful than others? Gosh, we have had so many positive programs, and I would say that I think there's two in my mind that kind of rise to the top, but it's very hard to choose. I'll just say that. The Great Update Rebate has been a huge addition to our city in really encouraging reinvestment to older neighborhoods. And the Great Update Rebate, in conjunction with the Neighborhood Vitality and Beautification grants, really is showing the partnership of the city back together with our residents. What we've seen is that our Great Update Rebate program focuses on housing that's 35 years or older, with both interior and exterior repairs and improvements. And honestly, that has been probably one of the most popular programs we've had. And really, when people start doing home repairs and home improvements, what we see is that has it basically expands out, and people start wanting to do work within their own community. It's been excellent, and we continue to run out of money every year. So that's been something that we have been very thankful that our city council has funded over the past several years. And then the Neighborhood Vitality and Beautification grants is really looking at those common areas, creating those entry points into neighborhoods, which are so important. And so we've really seen that bring together people to be able to get together, make decisions, beautify their community, so that people are encouraged to come into the neighborhoods and actually look for housing. But, you know, I think all of them have been incredibly successful. You know, an easy one to start with that I had mentioned is even the pop-up party trailer. You know, a lot of people want to get together, and it's difficult for groups that are trying to form to have the ability to rent chairs and tables and all the things that come as part of this pop-up party trailer. And that was one of our first investments that we did. It was a very minor investment of $10,000 from the city side. And honestly, even though we've done improvements every year, it has been a very cost-effective way to really strengthen neighborhoods across the city. And I can hear now.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I've got the question here that we're a very diverse city. How do you communicate to all the different cultures, and how many languages on notices, et cetera? So primarily what we do right now is that we always have it in English and Spanish. We are looking to add Mandarin, which is our next most popular language, as one of our outreach efforts to our Chinese community. And it is a challenge because we are constantly looking at how to better build out our diversity and inclusion trainings, and it is something that is on the top of our work programs to continue to try and build out with all of the different cultures that we have, and connecting. We have the Multicultural Outreach Roundtable that is part of the City of Plano. That's an excellent resource for us, as well as several of the the business chambers, and actually the faith-based groups. So we do try every single thing that we can to connect with our residents, and we are still continuing to try and figure out how to be better every day.
Lori, I have a question for you. What has been your favorite, most fun event that you have gotten to be a part of for neighborhoods, either your neighborhood or others in Plano?
Okay, so that would be two totally different things. So, but I would say I absolutely love where you live. That was when I first came to the city of Plano. That was it was a program that already existed, and I came from another city outside of the Dallas area, and one of the things that I always struggled with was how do you deal with these neighborhoods where you have these people in need, and I love the way that the city of Plano helps people in need. It is wonderful to have the volunteers that we've had. We're hoping that we're going to be able to attract them back post-pandemic. But that has been probably one of the most encouraging and fulfilling things that I have participated in is the Love Where You Live program. We work in different neighborhoods. We're able to really transform lives and build social connections, and that's probably my favorite. And honestly, that can be you could take any of those ideas and really make it work within your own neighborhood, even on a neighborhood-based level of looking for people that maybe need some help, and coming together as a group of volunteers or a group of neighbors to help somebody. I think that's it. When you can do that and really make a difference in somebody's life, that's huge. Now, as far as my neighborhood, we have a very active neighborhood. We are actually one of the best neighborhoods, the platinum level here in Plano. I was very fortunate to move into a very active neighborhood, and that was actually a choice. But we have a couple of things that we love doing. One of them is we have an annual barbecue. And so we bring out all of the guys, and they come out and they barbecue all day long with meat that we've been able to get from a local butcher. And it's just a great way of highlighting a local business and letting our guys in our neighborhood show off their grilling skills. And that's just a super fun event that brings the kids out and brings out everyone. So that, and probably their wine walks. I would say that their wine walks are pretty awesome too. So
those all sound very fun. Does anybody else have any other questions for Lori? Can you throw them in the chat or use the raise hand feature? It looks like we got another one.
Okay, so it says, is there anything I can do to make my neighbors be more encouraged to participate to make the neighborhood more safe and active? Our neighbors haven't talked to us in over 5 years. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're talking about the neighborhood as a whole or just your adjacent neighbors. But one of the things that I have found during the pandemic is being outside is really helpful. And I think continuing to try, I will tell you, I'll share a story, a pandemic story. Our neighbors all, have very busy lives. And up until the pandemic, we really hadn't spent a whole lot of time with our neighbors. And, after a while, we got really lonely. We're in the front yard trying to, just be outside, and us going out into the front yard and sitting outside, and we were initially in like camping chairs, and now we have permanent Adirondack chairs in our front yard. Just being outside, saying hello to people as they walk their dogs, as they worked in their yard. We actually had neighbors come over when they saw us sitting outside to come visit. And if you've never read The Turquoise Table, that's a really good book to talk about like how just being visible is honestly a good way to start. We have pursued a couple of neighbors that, we over time have had to really build trust. And that is one of them. I do think that especially if you are living in a neighborhood that you're new, or maybe there's new people coming in, you really do have to make that effort to reach out and continue to try and engage. And I just think it's a long-term effort. But those neighbors that came over and visited with us which we had lived next to them for 8 years and had never really spent any time with. They came over because we were sitting in the front yard, and we just got back from a 2-week vacation with them. So that tells you that you can really build relationships just by continuing to try. And so that's the best suggestion that I can give you, is just continue to pursue them in a gentle way, and be available, be outside, be available so they see you. It's hard when you have alleys, though, I'll say that. And a lot of us do.
Kind of on that same this train of thought, if you don't have a front yard, what do you recommend? You know, my house doesn't have a front yard, we just have our driveway. So do you recommend sitting in the driveway? How else
Absolutely.
can you meet our neighbors?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know our neighbors across the street, they actually end up having alley parties. Just be safe. Don't sit in the middle of the yard, or the middle of the alley rather. But I think, you know, we have some friends that live up in an area that they don't have a front yard, and they use their front driveway as almost like a patio. And I've seen them out there with their, you know, fire pits and all sorts of different things. And I think you have to just make yourself available. And strangely, you will find ways to connect with people. It could be them walking their dogs, or outside with their kids playing, or a variety of different ways. But I do think that, you know, if we're staying in our houses and staying in our backyards, it makes it very hard to meet others. And so, you know, I encourage you to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, and just try and see what happens.
These are wonderful recommendations. Thank you, Lori. Are there any other questions anybody has? We have about 4 more minutes left for Q&A. Not seeing anything coming into the chat. We'll give it a few more minutes, but thank you again, Lori. This was a really wonderful presentation. I found it very interesting. I definitely have some takeaways I'm going to take back to hopefully get friendships built with my neighbors as well. I hope everyone in here feels the same. Next is going to be our keynote presentation back in the main room. So when you feel you're ready, or if you have any questions, feel free to keep putting those in the chat. But on the bottom right of your screen, there's a blue button that says leave room, and it will take you back to the main room. We still do have a few minutes here if you'd like to stay and chat with Lori, but that will be your next move.